He picks up a pencil. In front of him is a piece of paper with a 5-pointed star drawn in double lines, and a mirror angled so he can only see his hand's reflection, never his actual hand. His job is simple: trace between the two lines of the star without lifting the pencil, guided only by what the mirror shows him. It is an infuriating task. The first time anyone tries it, your hand and your eyes argue with each other. Every instinct runs backwards. The man's name is Henry, though for decades the world would know him only by his initials, HM. Here's the strange part. You have done something almost exactly like this yourself, more times than you could count, without ever noticing what your own brain was quietly doing behind your back while you did it. Henry picks up the pencil again the next day, and the day after that. Each time a researcher sits across from him and asks the same question first. Have you ever done this before? No, he says every time. I don't believe so. He is not lying. He has no memory of the previous session. None. Not the room, not the researcher's face, not the pencil that was in his hand 5 minutes earlier, let alone yesterday. And yet his line gets straighter. His hand gets steadier. Session after session, his errors drop, exactly the way anyone's would while practicing a new skill. He is improving at a task he cannot remember ever doing. That should be impossible. Getting better at something requires comparing today's attempt to yesterday's mistake. Henry has none of that to compare. As far as his mind is concerned, every single session is his first. But his hand disagrees. In 1953, a surgeon named William Scoville removed a small piece of tissue from deep inside Henry's brain, on both sides, hoping to stop the seizures that had taken over his life. The seizures stopped. Something else went with them. Henry could still hold a conversation. He was polite, quick with a joke, sharp enough with a crossword. He remembered his childhood, his own name, how language worked. What he lost was the ability to lay down a single new memory of anything that happened to him ever again. Meet him twice in one afternoon, and the second meeting is, to him, the first. A young researcher named Brenda Milner began testing him not long after the surgery and kept testing him for years afterward. It was Milner who first put that pencil in his hand and asked him to trace the star. She expected nothing to stick. A man who forgets a conversation the moment it ends should forget a hand-eye task just as fast. He didn't. Here is where this stops being sad and starts being strange. Whatever part of Henry's brain was tracking his improvement on that star was working perfectly. It simply wasn't the part that was talking to her. It turns out there are at least 2 separate filing systems inside a human skull, built for 2 very different kinds of remembering. One system stores facts and moments, a name, a face, what happened last Tuesday. That is the system the surgery destroyed in Henry, tucked deep in the temporal lobes, in structures like the hippocampus. The other system stores skill, how a hand should move, how weight should shift, how a task gets smoother the more times a body repeats it. That system lives somewhere else entirely, in older circuitry, running through the cerebellum and the basal ganglia in Henry. That circuitry was never touched. You already know this second system. You just don't feel it working, which is exactly the point of it. Think about the last time you learned to parallel park, or type without glancing at your fingers, or ride a bike as a kid. At some point you stopped consciously thinking through the steps. The knowledge moved somewhere you can no longer inspect. Ask yourself to explain exactly how you balance on 2 wheels, and you probably can't. Your body simply knows in a way your words can't reach. That is the same system that was quietly sharpening Henry's star tracing, session after session, while the rest of him kept insisting he had never seen the task before in his life. Researchers eventually gave this hidden system a name, procedural memory, to separate it from the declarative memory, the facts and moments kind that Henry had lost. A neuroscientist named Suzanne Corkin, who studied Henry for more than 40 years after Milner's early work, went on to show that this split isn't some rare exception living inside one damaged brain. It is the basic architecture of every human brain, including the one inside your own skull right now. It's just invisible when both systems are intact, because they usually run so smoothly together that you can't feel the seam between them, which says something a little uncomfortable about the way you've probably been trying to learn things. If you've ever tried to get better at guitar, or a sport, or a new language, by sitting down and consciously drilling, reciting scales, memorizing grammar charts, narrating every step out loud to yourself, you've been leaning almost entirely on the system that surgery took from Henry. The one that gets tired, the one that forgets, the one that needs sleep, motivation, and a decent mood just to function on a given day. Meanwhile, the system that never once failed him, the one quietly improving in the background with no memory and no visible effort, is the one most people barely use on purpose. That system does not need you to remember the last attempt. It needs you to repeat the motion badly over and over in the real conditions where you'll actually use it. Hands on the real keyboard, feet finding the real pedals, mouth shaping the real sounds. It improves whether or not you are paying attention. It improves whether or not you remember trying. Sometimes it even improves while you sleep, consolidating a motion your conscious mind has already forgotten you practiced. This is probably why you've quit things you were actually getting good at. Picture the version of you that tried learning a language on an app, or picked up a used guitar during a slow month, or signed up for a pottery class on a whim. 3 weeks in, it feels like nothing is landing. You can't recite the verb conjugations. You still can't name the chord you just played. Your ball still collapses on the wheel, so you stop, quietly convinced you're simply not built for this. But notice what you were actually measuring. You were checking the system that keeps score in words, the one that needs a fact to point to, a rule you can recite back. You were never checking the other one, the hand that was this whole time getting infinitesimally steadier with the wheel, the mouth that was, without your permission, getting faster at shaping unfamiliar sounds. Henry's doctors could prove his hidden system was working because they had a pencil, a mirror, and years of sessions to graph it. You rarely get to see your own graph. You just get the feeling of struggle, which your conscious mind reads as failure when it may really be a system quietly doing exactly what it's built to do. Henry never found out, from one session to the next, that he was getting better at that star. He didn't need to find out. His hand already knew, and it kept the secret from the rest of him without any trouble at all. You are not as different from Henry as you'd like to think. Every time you've walked away from practicing something new, feeling like absolutely nothing sank in, some quieter part of you may have absorbed far more than the part of you that keeps score. Which brings us back to that piece of paper and that mirror and a man tracing a star he was certain every single time that he had never touched before. Session after session, for years Henry sat down at that same table. Every single time he told the exact truth as he understood it. This is new to me, I have never done this. And every single time, without his knowledge or his permission, his own hand quietly told a different story, one where nothing had ever actually been forgotten at all.